What do we see as the transit and transportation challenges, and what do we see in our region that we have to kind of do around transportation in our investments to actually improve the quality of life?
So one of the things I think that's worth noting is when you heard from the mayor and county executive about how we had to reinvent our economy, we were very successful at reinventing an economy that has a diversified industry base, but it also has a diversified industry base across a broad region. So we have a city core, but we also have a 10-county footprint that defines our local business footprint. And so when you consider that, what you realize is that you need a lot more solutions to get people from the outer to the inner. So for example, our energy economy that you've heard a bit about with our natural gas is in the broader region. And when we look at the data, we see that we have significant reverse commuting and very few people are actually working in their neighborhoods where they live. So we know, for example, that the neighborhood, where Diana works, fewer than 20% of the jobs are from the people that are living there, and fewer than 20% of the people there are working in their neighborhood. So we have a really big challenge in terms of being able to meet the needs of our local businesses, to get people where they are. They have to not only be able to navigate within an urban core, but they have to navigate within a broader region, and people are moving in and out of that across hills, across valleys, across rivers. And so that creates challenges. So we set on a path about 5 years ago to have a variety of conversations throughout that region to get input from people about what they want. And that resulted in about 55 recommendations that were kind of put together and synthesized to understand what we can do with that. And now we're at a point now with obviously new leadership at the Port Authority and some really inspired leadership around the region, that we can do some broad looking about what we need to do in the short term, the medium term, and more significantly, the long term, so we plan our transportation in a way that accommodates, current and future industry transition.
So as our transit guru, all things for getting around and getting to opportunity, what do you see?
So we have broadly two sets of challenges. We do have what a lot of our friends here will understand of the sprawl challenges. The airport corridors are a really great example. How do you get from A to B when you have finite resources? We also have the challenge of being a legacy system that, like a lot of our legacy friends will understand, what we used to be able to do with our money is much smaller because costs have just changed. So on the one hand, something like 80% of the jobs in Allegheny County are within a 10-minute walk, so about a half mile of a transit corridor. That's a fantastic situation to have, but if the bus that's coming by within that 10-minute walk is packed to the gills, you essentially have no service. So there's two different types of service denial. And first, thank you, Stephanie, you're the best. There's the service denial that you have to wait a long time to get to a bus, or you have a 2 or 3 mile walk. And that could be for many reasons. It's just as likely that in 2007, we came out of your neighborhood and you didn't move, so you're looking, where can you go Saturday? How far do you have to walk? And the other denial on that is you're on the Oakland corridor trying to get home to McKeesport from CMU, and every bus that comes by, and these are buses coming every 1.8 minutes, are full. They're full of other people. So you might wait several hours. You might catch a bus in an opposite direction to go upstream to catch that. Going back to the articulated buses, we'll have times on a Wednesday afternoon, at 2 in the afternoon, that there are 119 people on an articulated bus. So we have two different sets of challenges. First, how do we maximize what we've got out there for better service delivery? And how do we lay the groundwork to make the case that transportation is a critical investment without which none of this stuff can happen? People can't get to jobs, they can't get to new opportunities, they can't get to recreation, which makes you a better person for everything else you do. Kids can't get home from after-school activities. Diana and I have been talking about this. How do we make the business case that more funding or more flexibility with how we deliver service is what we need to be getting to?
One, transportation in and of itself won't get us there. I'll just tell you right now, livable communities. Because if I don't feel safe in my community, then it's going to impact where I'll go when, which will impact when I'll take those trips. So we had spent 2 years talking to literally thousands of residents, asking them what they think it takes to live a dignified life. And the issues that came up, transportation was one of them, but also safety, health, quality employment, education, and housing. And what became really clear was we have to think about this in a multidimensional way. And so you have to have all these partners because we have to think about all of it multidimensionally. And if they can finally get to that job, but the daycare isn't good, they're still not going to take care of it. So one, I want to push that this has to be a broad process of thinking that's multidimensional, and the two, multimodal becomes vital. So, you know, right now we have become a city that doesn't take advantage of walking, biking. You know, old Pittsburgh, our old Pittsburghers were pretty ticked off when the mayor put the bike lanes in, right? And they're still griping about it.
So the one thing in our region that unites black and white, regardless, is hatred for bike lanes.
Yeah. So,
You will, it doesn't matter. You could be in Spring Hill, you can be in Homewood, the Hill District. It really doesn't matter. That's one thing that a lot of old Pittsburghers say, you know, Billy Bike Lane. He would laugh. But I mean, that really is true about thinking about the future of transit.
So it's two things. One is multidimensional in thinking about this more broadly, but two is multimodal. And how do we think about what the various options are at the various points in time? Why couldn't a group of kids hop on a bike and go from one part of their neighborhood to the other and feel safe in that process? That's not an option today. So suddenly now, understanding multimodal differently and then thinking about what are the pieces we have to plug into that will get people at all levels to embrace it and say, I can do that, right? We can start thinking about bicycles with a little electric batteries or whatever behind them so that they can ride them down the hills, but then cheat going back up. So I think those are some of the things we want to build into this as we're thinking about what this is really going to take.